Choosing to walk the path of a healer, to walk the path of spiritual expansion, does not make your ego disappear or go away. Stepping into your service does not silence it, does not change it. And the deeper that you go into the work, the more skilled that your ego becomes at hiding inside of it. If you believe that awakening means that you experience ego death and that your ego goes away, this video will shift the way you understand ego transformation because it does not vanish, it evolves with you. And the lasting transformations happen when you acknowledge and move into acceptance of where it is influencing your work, your service, your spirituality, and your purpose, and you surrender it to your higher self again and again and again. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda, and I am a spiritual intuitive, and I mentor and facilitate for other healers, light workers, and spiritual guides in their process of awakening and ascension of their gifts in the world. I have the ability to not only feel energy and subtle bodies, but I have the ability to actually see and perceive frequencies of energy from the cell inside the physical body into the quantum consciousness where we all exist and many things in between. I sit with ascended masters in meditation and facilitate out of body experiences that allow me to have a great expanse of experience of things not normally seen or spoken about. It is such an honor to have you here with me today, to be holding space with you today. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 ways that you can identify the way the ego masks itself in your work, in your purpose, in your direction. And I will also be sharing with you from my personal experience of ego death and how it shaped my life, my understanding, and my perspective of what it means to be in this human experience and navigate the ego. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, I encourage you to subscribe and like this video, share it with somebody, and stick around till the end. So let's get into it. Ego does not need to be synonymous with negativity or badness or selfishness. The ego is the most beautiful tool for your human mind, for your experience, for your connection, and for your expression. What I have come to understand is that the ego is not your enemy. It is a part of you intrinsically and has worked very hard at keeping you safe and alive. The work is not to kill it or destroy it. The work is to notice when it has slid in and has more influence in your work, in your service, in your passion and alignment than perhaps your higher self has of influence in those areas. In this video, we're going to share with you 3 ways that you can identify where your ego is showing up and influencing all of your work, not just your personal life, but in the way that you serve others and the way that you practice your spiritual alignment. And I will be sharing with you my very first ego death experience, that experience that helped my perspective shift so drastically of what ego is, does, and looks like, that I could not help but to intrinsically shift the way that I interacted with myself, my thoughts, and my patterns. So I am going to share with you 3 ways where the ego of the healer's mind can be found or tries to hide in the work and the alignment of your experiences. The very first one is to notice When you feel the need to defend, prove, or protect your work, your service, yourself, your ego has these identifiers that are always on the lookout for challenges. Sometimes the challenge is very obvious, but sometimes there is no challenge. But the ego will respond as though there is. For those of us who hold space for others, this can be a very sensitive experience or topic. When you feel the urge to defend your wisdom, your knowledge, or prove your value, or you're trying to make someone recognize and understand your depth and your power, what is often happening is that your ego is reaching for validation of itself. It wants someone doubting you to confirm to you now, in this moment, that you are enough. Are you feeling the need to be seen as the person who knows and understands, who carries wisdom and confidence? The moment that your service becomes entangled in approval or admiration, you begin leading from insecurity instead of alignment with the self. Those you serve will feel the difference even if they cannot name what it is. They can feel authenticity. Ego needs the mirror reflection of others to understand and know itself and its role. Alignment with Source does not call for an audience, does not feel the desire to prove or defend or compare oneself. The consciousness stands within the stillness, the peace, the forgiveness, the understanding. And it does not flinch or contract at someone else's doubt, feeling no need to convince anyone of anything. So be aware when you're feeling that need to defend, prove, or validate your role, your service, your place in the world. The second, and probably one of the more sneaky ones, you must watch for the story that says not yet. This is often a thought pattern with an emotion. The ego is masterful at postponing things that feel unsafe, insecure, or cannot identify. It tells you that you must become a future version of yourself before you do this or do that. This voice keeps you hesitating. It keeps you moving the goalpost or the parameters. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready yet. I need more of this or that. And as soon as you get close to reaching those parameters, change your mind. You change your mind. It goes, no, not yet. Or no, that wasn't meant for you. We'll do the next one. It's very, very sneaky. And these thought patterns are the ones that tend to rule that one. And so it can dress itself up with spiritual language. Oh, you're having discernment. You're having humility. And sometimes you are, but oftentimes underneath that language, you're afraid of something. You're afraid of being seen. There's a fear of being wrong. Or maybe there's a fear of having to hold responsibility for the energetic spaces that you create for yourself and for others. Because we are not taught how to do that. It is not something that is readily available until now, because you're here watching this. How do you take accountability and responsibility for things that cannot be seen? That is very good dialogue of the ego, a thought pattern of the ego to keep you where you are, to keep you in the safe zone that is identifiable, that changes very little, if at all. When you find yourself waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect opportunity or the perfect client, pause. What is really speaking to you? Your ego will keep you safe on the sidelines, keeping you safe while convincing you you're being wise. So be aware. And that leads us to number 3. Observe where comparison lives in you. The ego does not exist without measure. It is always ranking and looking and deciding who is ahead and who is behind. Who's better, who's worse? How are we lining up in this scale of judgment? Comparison has a particular flavor. The ego is always looking and comparing itself against other facilitators, other healers, and trying to decide who is more advanced, Who is more qualified? Who is the better healer? Who has more success? Who has less? And where do you feel yourself in that process? Can you feel how exhausting comparison is? And that's when the comparison is obvious. When it says, "Oh, they're better than me. Oh, I'm better than them." That judgment piece. That's the obvious part of comparison. Sometimes it is a little quieter. Sometimes it's, "Oh, I'm not quite enough." Sometimes, "Oh, one day, why am I not successful? Why am I not that person?" Now, that's the subtler, quieter thought patterns. That can also look like jealousy. Now, these comparisons will distort your work because instead of listening to your own alignment, you start reacting to other people's paths. You shrink yourself down, you push yourself to the side, or you start to boost yourself. You start to inflate your ego and push back, or you start copying what has been working for someone else, what other people are doing, instead of what is here for you, what is meant for you. Your soul consciousness, your soul expression does not compare. There, there is no competition of service from conscious alignment. There is room for every single expression, every single human working in service in the world, and what is meant to move through you cannot be replaced by another person doing their work well. Doing their passion, doing their mission for their purpose does not dim the light of your purpose, your mission, your expression. There are no competitions, there are only more people with a unified thought to be heart centered service healers. There are no losers in this. When I experienced my very first ego death, I did not understand what was happening. So, in my ignorance, I held very tightly to my anger, to my rage, to my emotions. And I really made my higher self come at me full force, which is something I will never forget. I had set my intention for a meditation to go into my unconscious mind to observe a pattern that was holding me back, that I felt limited with at the time. And so, as I went into this meditation and I opened my eyes, I was walking into a forest and then I tripped on something and I face planted onto a solid rock. And when I looked up from the ground, I saw my higher self stand up out of my body and walk over to another person who was not there a moment before. Now, at this point, this was after I had experienced enlightenment. And so it took me a moment to recognize and acknowledge that my higher self just stepped out of my body, my experience, my expression. So, my question was why? I'm about to walk into the deepest facets of my mind. And then there were others around us, and they were beckoning me to go to the entrance of a cave right in the side of the mountain. And they handed me one of those lanterns with a candle in it, and they said, "Go." And I remember as I walked through the mouth of that cave, I remember feeling trepidatious. I remembered feeling afraid. Why did my higher self, why are they standing over there outside of the cave? Why aren't they going in with me? And this built that emotion of fear. And as I was walking down this very long, twisting corridor, it was very, very dark, lit only by that little candle lantern that I had. I was faced with many fears. I heard many noises in the dark, unsettling, terrifying. And I had this sense that I was walking into a large arena for a big fight. It felt like being like I imagine a gladiator would feel right before a match. And as I reached down to the light at the end of this corridor, and I stepped into this giant room, and there my consciousness, my bright ball of light, consciousness was sitting in this room, and my higher self was standing outside of that light, looking at me, not smiling, not frowning, just stoic, graceful. And as I'm standing there, I had acquired a giant axe, knowing in my mind this axe would do nothing against this, what I thought was an opponent. But I was so mad, and I was of the mind that if I was going to go down to my death, I was going to go down fighting. Because that was a point of pride, see? In my family, in my life, in my experience, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down fighting. And this is what I was preparing for all the way down that corridor. Not knowing that the one that would be there was going to be my higher self and my consciousness. I could not have predicted this. The energy was so big, it was so looming, it was so foreign. And as she looked at me, as I was preparing to fight her, because she was there and I just knew I was going into a battle, she simply said, "Just let go." And she moved so quick and spun behind me. And then my whole body froze. And I was so angry. I remember feeling the anger coursing through my veins. And she said it again, "Just let go." And I looked into her eyes. And through gritted teeth, I said, "No, I will not let go." And she just nodded at me. And in that moment, as I felt this process and my eyes started to close, they were immediately opening again as I was being birthed anew in the same moment. I was being birthed through my consciousness. And as that body lay there fading away, I opened my eyes in the body of an infant, and my higher self came and held me in her arms, feeling overwhelmed with empathy for me. Empathy, acceptance. And she said, you did not let go." And when I came out of that experience, shaking, unsure of what even happened to me, I went searching for other examples. What did I just experience? And I typed in the searches, this was my experience and this is what had happened. And wouldn't you know, many people have had many experiences of what they called the ego death. I had never heard of that before that day. Because you see, everything that the ego cannot identify, that it does not already know, is an end. It does not register change as change or surviving or the next step. It only registers what it knows already and the end. This leads to these experiences with the ego where it is terrified, where we hold on, where all of the signals of the mind are fear. So I encourage you today, this week, take the time, ask the questions. One thing that the ego does not do is ask questions. It makes assumptions. And we will get into that more in the next video. But this week, take the time to ask the questions. How is your ego hiding itself in the not yet, in the comparison of someone else? Where is it sitting with you? Journal about it, feel it, acknowledge it, notice it. Move into acceptance of every state of being that you are, because your ego is an intrinsic part of you and your expression in the world. And take a breath with me. Be present with me. I see your light. I see your light. And I honor and have immense gratitude for the light that you carry in the world. Do not be covering it up with the fear. It will not be covered forever. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video today, please like it, share it, and subscribe for more videos like this. Next week, we will be diving into my second ego death experience and what it truly felt like for that surrender. And I will be sharing with you the three primary ways that helped me during my experience of ego death, awakening, enlightenment, ascension, and how I applied it to my life. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.